Well, I'm going to get started. So my name is Sarah Norton, and I am an outdoor school coordinator for the Kalapuya Watershed Council. So basically my job entails creating outdoor school programs for the 5th and 6th graders in Oregon State. We focus on Albany School District and the Central Lynn School District. So I get to work with 5th and 6th graders. We get them outside. They get to go to a camp. They learn about science, and it's really hands-on and place-based. Students also get to know each other and learn how to work together, which is awesome and really special. It's a unique program that's only in Oregon State right now. So with that being said, one of our lessons that we've taught in the past is building terrariums, because it's really fun, and I love how hands-on this is, and you can be as creative as you want with how you decorate, what plants you want to plant, all sorts of things. So what I'm going to do right now is go over the materials that I'm going to be working with today, and materials are also on that visual we posted. So today I brought some rocks, and these I just got at like the Dollar Tree. And they're really pretty, actually, so I'm excited to use them. I also have some horticultural charcoal, and this is an optional item. A lot of people who do terrariums recommend activated charcoal because it helps filter the water within your terrarium. And then I just have some regular potting soil. I have one little plant that I've been propagating, and so I'm going to add that. I also have some Pacific Northwest native wildflower seeds, thanks to the Kalapuya Watershed Council. And then this is my jar. This is what we're going to be, or what I'm going to be making my terrarium out of today. So I have one right in front of me that I did a couple weeks ago, and this one you can see I did with white rocks. And these are the wildflower seeds that kind of sprouted. And so I left it open because I wanted them to really grow out, and I'm pretty good at keeping up with watering plants, so that's why I tried this one. And you can also look in, I've decorated it a little bit. There's some fun and funky rocks in there. But yeah, so I figure we'll get started on making our terrarium, and then I'm going to go over some cool stuff that you might not know about terrariums. Oh, that's a good one. Kay Dolian shared, I learned the hard way that if you have larger hands, go for the wide mouth jars. Yes. So you can do this by hand. You can also get utensils. Like today I'm going to be using a spoon because I like to try and keep my levels nice and even. And then I also don't want to get my hand stuck in a jar today. So yeah, that's why I also went with a wider mouth. So the first thing you want to do is make sure your terrarium container, like you can use glass, you can use plastic. We have a lot of kids use like those liter soda bottles, and you can cut them in half and make one, but I like to reuse like spaghetti jars or old glassware. And so the first step you do is you add your rocks, and this helps with water filtration and make sure that your soil isn't completely saturated the whole time. And so you want to add about an inch of rocks in here. So I'm going to take my spoon and move them around, see where I want the rocks to go, because these are really pretty, I think. And you can use any kind of rocks or gravel. You can find them in your backyard. All right, let me add a few more. I have a question. Are the terrarium jars cat-proof? That's a good question. So, I have a cat, and he doesn't seem to take too much interest in these. I think if you're going to put it somewhere and you have a cat that likes to knock things over with the rocks, these can actually be pretty heavy. to push around. And then also, you can always use plastic containers so they don't break. And if you do a closed terrarium, you're not going to lose all your plants. Like your cat can't get into them at all. So I'm pretty happy with this. It might be a little bit higher than I need it to be, but I really like that. So next, I'm going to add charcoal, and again, this is completely optional. If you're interested in getting charcoal, I know a lot of the pet stores have the activated charcoal. You can also try your garden centers. You don't need a lot, you just want to cover that layer. And I'm already making a mess. I've never been really neat with these kinds of crafts, and that's totally okay. All right. So, and charcoal is really just to help with filtration. It can help with like bacteria and fungi. And it just is another added little layer. And then next, we're going to add soil. And this is probably the messiest part for me because I spill everything. I actually have an extra cup, so I'm probably just going to use it cup-wise. And so I'm just using a regular potting soil that you can pick up at any gardening center. You usually want to do a couple inches of soil. Get in there, maybe just a little bit more. And then also, your soil choice should also depend on what type of plants you want in your terrarium. So for mine today, I'm going to plant this guy. And this is a cutting I took from it's kind of like an ivy plant. It's called Purple Heart or Purple Crown. It has a lot of different names. As you can see, it's kind of green. It's really soft and fuzzy, and on the back side it gets purplish. It's harder to tell in the camera, but you can see that purple. So I'm going to try and plant that today, which just needs regular soil, regular potting soil. If you want to do like succulents, I recommend getting special soil like that has a lot of perlite in it, or just a drier soil. Some people even just use straight up rocks for their succulents. And for succulents, you also want to have an open air terrarium like this one that I've already done. Because if you do a closed terrarium with a top over it, it's going to get really humid in there, and succulents don't do the greatest in humidity. They like warm weather, but they like it dry. So, with that, I'm going to plant my plants. And so I've just took a cutting off of my original Purple Heart and stuck it in water for about a week, and now it has all these awesome roots. So I'm just going to take my spoon and dig a hole and plant it. And there are a lot of resources online where you can figure out what kind of plants you want in there, what different species of plants grow well together. And you can also just do trial and error, which is kind of what I'm doing today, because I'm going to mix a couple different plant species. And so I'm just going to gently pat it in. You can tell it's already kind of big for this jar, so I might need to do some pruning later on. And then, just for fun, I'm going to add some wildflower seeds because I love wildflowers. And so another cool terrarium idea that I've seen a lot of people do is they do herb gardens. And so herb gardens are easy. You can just use containers like this and keep it in the kitchen, and then you'll have fresh herbs. Let's see. Could you do a mesh top over succulents? Oh, I think you totally could. As long as like the air can flow through, I think it should work fine. Yeah, I don't see why an air mesh would not work. If you go online, because terrariums have become really popular, there's just a ton of amazing terrarium photos out there that can give you some really cool ideas to do with your succulents. most succulents actually grow well together since they tend to have similar needs. I'm just adding a little bit of water in here to start to moisten my potting soil. It's pretty dry. And so now that I've planted my plant, you can see it's just a little in there, and some seeds. This is where the ultimate decision comes in. Is this going to be a closed terrarium and an open terrarium? And so I think I'm going to try a closed terrarium because it's really cool and it's a lot less maintenance when you get it right. Because when you have a closed terrarium, you actually can create your own water cycle. Like right in this jar, the water cycle can happen. And so just as a refresher, because I drew these, so we have the water cycle. And so this can actually happen right within your terrarium if it's closed. So what happens is you water it, the water goes down in the rocks, and the roots also from your plants will absorb it. And so we have some evaporation happening. And so as it evaporates within your container, it's going to condense. And so it might get kind of foggy in your container, and you might start to see droplets. And so those droplets are just going to become precipitation, and it's going to re-water your plant, which is really awesome. There's a lot of self-watering terrariums. The record holder is a gentleman who's had a terrarium for about 50 years and has not had to water it yet. It's become like its own little ecosystem, its own little water cycle, and the plants in there are thriving, which is really cool. Another part of this, for how this works, is called transpiration. And so transpiration is part of the water cycle as well. And so I drew another fancy photo or picture. And so plants actually give off water vapor. And it's kind of like how when we're breathing, like if you feel your breath, it's not just gases. You can feel the moisture from your breath. And that's kind of what plants do too. They have these little porous openings. These are called stomatas, and they actually release water vapor from the plant. So as the roots take up that water, goes up to the stem, out into the leaves, the stomatas will open and they release water vapor from what's been absorbed in the soil. And so plants actually give off about 95% of the water that they take in, they actually put out as water vapor, which is really cool. And actually, there's another really cool experiment you can try. I'm checking mine outside, but I think I need more time to actually see transpiration also, besides just a terrarium. What you can do is you can take a plastic bag and you wrap it around a branch and close it tight and make sure it's a see-through bag. And you wait a few hours and you'll actually see the condensation within the bag from that plant transpiring, which is really cool and something really easy you can do at home. It's just a neat little experiment. And so that's why I'm really excited to do a closed terrarium, because I want to see if I can make the water cycle in here. So we're going to see what happens with that. And another super fun part that I love before I finally close this is decorations. You can add so many fun things to terrariums. I have a cousin and she adds little animal figurines, which are super cute. She adds glow-in-the-dark things. Today I'm going to add some seashells that I've found from a trip to Florida a while back. I just really like the colors. And part of a pine cone, which I just thought was really funky and fun. And so you can kind of play with your terrariums, stick them in there, just be aware of, where your plants might be growing. But yeah, you can decorate. I might need my spoon again because I can't reach in my jar. Gotta flip it over. But so, that's one thing I love about terrariums is they're so easy and you get to decorate it how you want. You get to decide what plants you want. And what's great is, like, even during COVID-19, like, when some stores do have their garden sections open, or you can just go outside and find rocks and moss and other cool plants you can just add, which is what I love. I also like reusing containers that I already have. I don't have to go out and buy extra ones for this. And so I'm going to add a little bit more water and call it good. And so over the next week or so, I'm going to keep an eye on it, see how the plants are doing, make sure, you know, that they're not struggling or overwatered. One of the tricks for your terrarium is to check the condensation if you're doing a closed one. So if you have constant condensation on the inside, that means you have too much water in the system. So you're going to actually have to open and air it out a bit to release some of that water vapor. If you're not seeing any condensation at all, that means it's too dry. And so you're going to want to add more water to this. And so especially for choosing plants, you want plants that are okay with humidity in here, because it's going to be a very humid environment. So like succulents would do much better in an open terrarium. Yeah, and so that's basically nice, easy peasy, cute terrarium, and I'm excited for my little purple heart to grow in here and see what happens. It's just an easy decoration. All right, well, thanks everyone for joining in. If you end up making a terrarium or you made one along with me, we'd love to share it online. Or if you have questions about the water cycle, that would be great. So I hope you all have a great day and enjoy your terrariums. Bye.